Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Can I have somebody move action 1.01?
Move it.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 6-0-0. I would like to welcome you to our meeting and let the public know that if you have any questions or concerns that you would like to reach out to us at, you can reach us at clerk@fulton.cnyric.org. Action 1.02, approve agenda.
And there's a couple of adjustments,
Okay.
just so people draw attention from the original. They are on your current one. 4.02, there's a donation that we received for $2,500, which is terrific.
Yes.
On 6.05, Seth Delisle should be identified as the JV lacrosse coach, not the assistant.
Okay.
So JV lacrosse coach. And 7.12, from our minutes, when we approve our minutes, 7.12 from last time had one of our coaches named assistant varsity girls coach and the JV girls lax coach. And in fact, he's not the girls lax, he's just the assistant assistant head coach for the varsity girls lacrosse. So that's more to clean it up, just to make sure it was accurate.
Can we add to the superintendent's report about the library book?
Normally, okay. You can bring it up. I should have provided another report then. I could do it for the next meeting, or you could bring it up with questions in the forum, and we could go from there. I didn't present it. I forgot the word forum. Yeah.
We can do that.
Yep. Oh. So probably the board forum would be the perfect spot for that. Now I know. Thank you. Thought I forgot something. Thank you.
So any other changes?
No, thank you, President.
All right, so can I have somebody move that?
Move it.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 6-0-0. Would you please show, let me start with evacuation procedures. Sorry, I'm jumping the gun here. In the case of an emergency and we need to leave the building, we have our door number 6 off here. We could also go out the library doors, go to either the right or the left. Just as you go out of the building, please move all the way away from the building. Would you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. There was nobody signed up for public forum. Action 1.06, approve the February 13th meeting minutes. Somebody move that?
Move it.
Second?
Tim.
So
Second.
Mr. Crandall, will you be second? Or do you want to move? You're second? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstaining?
Abstain.
Passes 5-0-1. For our president's reports, we have a couple of health and safety committee meetings, and we also put on there the budget workshop that will be March 5th. A couple of board regular meetings, and I see that the district coherence committee has a meeting on the 18th. Also want to bring to your attention on March 25th, we have our Oswego County School Boards Association event, which is held out at City BOCES at 6 p.m. So keep that and mark your calendars for that. Is there any questions on any of our meetings coming up? Okay, with that, then it goes to...
I do have a...
Sure,
Oh,
sure.
never mind. I'm good.
Are you good?
Yep.
It's 5:30 for next Tuesday, right?
5:30 for the budget workshop, yes.
And is that in here?
Correct.
Okay, just wanted to double check.
Yep.
Nope, good question. All right, with that, I'm going to pass it over to Superintendent Mr. Palvino.
All right, good evening, everyone. So here's our opportunity this evening. We're going to start off the evening. We're going to go actually upstairs to the Fulton Junior High cafeteria. And that's because our Quirks players are going to be giving us a snapshot of Footloose, which is our musical for this year between the 7th and 9th of March. Hard to believe it's next week. And it also kicks off Music in Our Schools Month. And we can't live feed because it's a, they have rights, copyrights and things like that. So we were just talking about that. So we're going to go up and we're going to see our students do a fantastic job representing Footloose and kick off our Music in Our Schools month and musical season here at the Fulton City School District. So we're going to go up there.
That's great.
We'll be back in about 15 minutes.
All right.
Okay, well, welcome back. That was truly a special presentation upstairs. Those in the public that didn't get to see and have the experience, next week, March 7th to 9th, come over to G. Ray Bodley High School on the evening of the 7th, evening of the 8th, and then I believe there's a matinee at 2 p.m. and a 7:30 show on Saturday. So 4 opportunities next week to come and watch our kids, and we just saw them, and it's going to be absolutely terrific. So great way to kick off the month of March on our music in our schools. And I also think he said it was theater in our schools month as well, as we just found out upstairs. Eclipse activities and learning. Eclipse community instructional PD activities. Mrs. Geithner?
Yes, thank you. So our Eclipse committee, and I'm going to call on the rest of the director team here tonight to fill in the blanks in case I forgot something. Our Eclipse planning committee has met twice, and they are working on a number of learning opportunities and instructional resources and sharing information with our students, certainly, with our staff, and also with our families. We've already kicked off our community read, which is the book about the solar eclipse that we shared with you at a previous meeting, and that is now in the hands of our pre-K through 8th grade families. We will be providing solar eclipse glasses for the viewing of the total solar eclipse on April 8th. And Abby, do you want to just briefly share some of the interdisciplinary activities that are going to happen on March 28th?
So on March 28th, it's a half-day rotation here at the junior high and in other areas and other buildings and in the high school. Students will be rotating through art classes where they'll be making protectors and decorative things for the eclipse classes. They'll also be doing that in elementary art classes. We have myths about the solar eclipse that will be shared in LA. We have the tech teachers that will be going through each one of 5 rotations where they'll be participating in math calculations about the eclipse and just a transdisciplinary opportunity for students.
And so Fulton Family Fun Day will be another way that we get this information out and really dive into learning about this once-in-a-lifetime experience for people in our region. On March 16th, Fulton Family Fun Day will be at G. Ray Bodley High School from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. All activities and great food will be free to families in the Fulton City School District. We also make transportation available if anyone has that obstacle to getting to join us. We will certainly work to help get them to this event with their family. A lot of the activities that you will see that day are going to be solar eclipse themed, so we really want to have it be an immersive learning experience for our students, but also for their family members who come along. So we really hope to have a wonderful turnout on March 16th, and that will be just another one of those lead-up events to the big event on April 8th when we get to view the total solar eclipse.
So it's going to be great. Things are really evolving. I think it's going to be a great experience for our students and our staff. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. We're learning a lot of new information out there. So looking forward to it. So thank you. Next is our mid-year progress report. Mrs. Geithner.
Yes, good evening, thank you. And again, the director team is going to join me in presenting this information because it really summarizes and encompasses the work of every member of our district community. As always, we'll begin with our mission and our vision, which guides the work that we're doing. And just an overview of what you're going to hear about this evening. This is the mid-year check-in on progress of our strategic coherence plan goals and other related data points. So the action steps that you're going to see in these slides are taken directly out of our 23-24 priorities within the strategic coherence plan, and evidence of progress toward those action steps is actually documented in more detail on the progress report that's linked in the slide deck and was provided to you in board backup. Specific data that we used from mid-year benchmark data and other data that we collect throughout the year was also provided in a separate slide presentation in board backup, and it's linked in this presentation on slide 7. We're going to spend our time this evening talking to you about some of the celebrations that have come out of that data analysis, and also identifying some specific areas for growth and next steps. These reflect what we plan to do for the rest of this year, and also will drive some of our planning into our next strategic coherence plan, which is in development.
Excuse me, this is Ben.
Yes.
Will some of this include to what led to some of these celebrations, but also what led to some of these, I guess non-celebrations would be the
Yes.
other?
So the data will be referenced throughout that, and some background will be provided by each of the presenters tonight about how we got to where we are and where we hope to be headed.
Thank you.
So just a note about our strategic coherence plan surveys, because a lot of the goals in our strategic coherence plan currently are based on survey responses, and we shared this information with you earlier this year when we reviewed the survey data from the fall. So we shortened our surveys significantly this time around, focusing on the questions that monitor and are explicitly laid out within our plan. We simplified some of the question language and aligned it with our common district message, like you belong here, it's safe to speak up here, and what we do is important. Our survey window was longer in the fall than it has been in the past, and frequent reminders were sent out. And the Likert scale options were reduced from 5 to 4, that eliminated a lot of the neutral responses that didn't tell us a lot about how people were feeling about these important goals. Our next set of surveys is our end of year survey, and those will open in May and continue through the middle of June. So we'll have a pretty wide window again where families, students, and staff members can respond to that survey. It'll be the same set of questions that was administered in the fall. So again, just to give you, without going through all of this was provided in your backup. We have formatted our strategic plan progress monitoring this way by going through each of these goals and action steps, and then providing some evidence and some notes about how we are progressing. And there's some specific examples in there for you to review. The data, again, was linked in this separate set of slides that was provided as part of your backup, and we'll be referencing, and I'm certainly happy to take questions about those two documents as we progress. I'm going to begin by talking about the focus area of leadership from our strategic coherence plan, and the strategic intent there is by 2024, all school leaders will implement agreed upon systems and structures to improve individual and school-wide practices. These should look familiar. Again, these are the action steps. A lot of these action steps tie directly to our multi-tiered system of support, and linked for you at the bottom is a presentation that you saw earlier in the year around our multi-tiered system of support and how that looks in the Fulton City School District. Some of the celebrations around MTSS include the launch of the Lens of Learning, which is the site that we showcased to you at the beginning of the year, the work of a lot of our teachers, facilitators, department chairs, director team, building administrators over about 18 months to 2 years went into the development of that Lens of Learning site, which showcases the essential learning outcomes that we expect all students to know and be able to do, resources, and the sequence in which those are taught. Our MTSS plan site, which we launched recently here at this board meeting, describes what we do for all students in the way of Tier 1 instruction, and then if students are struggling in any area, academic, social, emotional, behavioral, attendance, what we do in response to those needs and how we monitor. So that is there in public. Another celebration I think it's really important to share, again, going back to our MTSS structures, is universal data team meetings are happening at each of our 6 buildings at least 3 times a year. And those data team meetings focus on that benchmark data, the benchmark data from the fall, and most recently our mid-year benchmark data. Each building has a team that comes together, and Lynette DePoint, our MTSS facilitator, brings that data to those teams, and they spend time really analyzing and looking at it from a systems perspective. It doesn't get down to individual kit data. We look at the data and say, what about our systems, our strengths, and where are there gaps that we as a universal team need to address? Those teams communicate with the building leadership teams, the school culture teams, and the building site-based teams.
so that action steps are clearly defined, and then we can follow up and take additional action to address wherever there are systems gaps in our learning systems. Our elementary and secondary curriculum councils also really deserve great kudos because they are working diligently to update curriculum review plans, identify and review those essential learning outcomes along with the assessments that go with those. And they're spending a great deal of time on vertical alignment and identifying strengths and needs. Where are we connecting first grade to third grade to sixth grade to ninth grade, so that as our students progress through school, there's clear connection in their learning and we're not creating gaps through our curriculum or through our instructional practices. We have great teams of facilitators at both the elementary and secondary level who are working hard with their district teams and then also within their buildings to do this work. Consistent structures for our district and building meetings. And going back to that MTSS system, we showed you the meeting protocols and agendas that are consistent, that are implemented across all 6 of our buildings, so that we have the ability to have those district level conversations, building level conversations, and classroom level conversations, but we can see the connections among all of those systems. We've really increased collaboration among our district leaders, and you will see that our directors and our principals are modeling our professional learning community practices by meeting in their own professional learning communities. So they're getting together weekly to share their work, share their best practices, share their struggles, and get ideas from one another, and really carrying that through how they're leading in their buildings and in their departments. And another celebration for me, having been through this process over multiple years in Fulton, is an even greater alignment of our building and district goals in all of the plans. So if you look at each building's plan, you'll see direct connections to our district level plans. And that has really helped narrow our focus and keep us on track for some of those improvements. I'm going to turn it over to Renee, who's going to talk about some celebrations in the instructional coaching part of this particular goal within our plan.
Good evening, thank you for this opportunity to share our recent celebrations. The instructional coaches have continued to implement a research-based model based on Jim Knight's impact cycle. The impact cycle focuses on 3 main areas: identifying, learning, and improving. This year, we shifted our focus to working with teachers with 1 to 4 years of experience. The chart on the right illustrates that 61% of the teachers working with coaches have 1 to 4 years of experience, and another celebration is a continued coaching relationship with the tenured teachers, who make up 38% of the coach's caseload. On the next slide, this illustrates that 88% of the coaching occurs in person, and the coaching cycles are focusing on student engagement, instructional intervention groups, curriculum, and differentiating and scaffolding.
So I'll talk a little bit about the areas of growth for MTSS. Really, one of the things that we've highlighted is increasing communication and collaboration with families about learning. Our MTSS site that we've published is one way for us to do that, but we recognize that there need to be additional methods of communication, and how do we engage families more deeply in this process of learning that happens each day with their children at school. So that is definitely an area of growth. We also know that we want to provide our instructional leadership team with additional professional development and collaboration time so they can implement those professional learning community models with fidelity and consistently across all of our buildings. In supporting our teachers and facilitators in their team meeting structure so they can enhance their impact. We've been exploring, and you'll hear more about this in the coming months, collective efficacy and the conditions that we would like to create so that people are feeling that what we are doing can and does have an impact, and how collectively putting those efforts together really does make a difference for our students. We are also looking to create additional opportunities for collaboration, and specifically around following up on meeting action steps. So teams are feeling like they're having time to get to the action step development, but not always time to follow up on those action steps to ensure that we have the resources that we need, that the time has been allotted, and that we're really honing in on the goals that we set. And we are seeking additional actionable feedback from those team meeting participants. So Lynette DePoint, again, as part of her work as the MTSS coordinator, has been attending these meetings and buildings and asking team members for feedback on how the process can be improved and what additional support they need. Want to talk about the instructional coaching more?
Can we go back to the previous slide?
Sure.
On the bottom there, topics of coaching. Differentiation.
So tier 1 instruction, how do we differentiate instruction to make sure that we're meeting the entire class that's in front of us, all 25 students. So we want to make sure we're exposing and giving opportunities to learn the tier 1 curriculum, and so we're working on ways to make that accessible to all students. So we're talking about adding visuals, chunking. You'll hear more about that in from our study groups that we've been doing, how to implement and give practices for teachers. So next steps for instructional coaching, continuing to refine our model and to ensure that it's sustainable and that it's responsive to what our teachers need.
Renee's going to stay with us and talk to us about the literacy focus area of our program.
So the next several slides will focus on progress in the area of literacy. At our mid-year, we saw a slight dip in the third grade composite score from 54% to 51%. In January, our region's results showed an increase in levels 4 and 5 to 50% from our 39% in June. Ms. Florio and I were really excited that we assessed a total of 263 students in January, with 222 of them being 10th graders. We were very pleased with the implementation of that.
Do we know what might have caused that dip? It's not that big of a dip, but just
Actually, I
usually it's
anticipated
the other way away.
anticipated that question. So I was breaking down all of those scores. So the composite score is compiled from nonsense word fluency, which has 2 scores: correct letter sounds, and then how students are reading those whole words together. And when I was looking at that, the result was saying 57%, both beginning of the year and middle. They were recoding the same. The other composite score, measure was word reading fluency, so those are individual real words. Both of those scores were at 49%. Our work accuracy actually increased from 40% to 65%. The slight dip was in our OR score from 46% to 42%. And then our maze was 41% to 44%. So there wasn't really anything striking in all of those. I think at the mid-year point, the way Dibbles calculates, there should have been more of probably an anticipated growth in the nonsense word fluency, and it was exactly the same. But I see the difference in our accuracy, which tells me that our students are applying those decoding skills, and in our maze, which tells me that their comprehension is also improving. So I'm comfortable with those nice things.
And ORF is a?
I'm sorry, oral reading fluency. I did say all the other ones.
Wait, Renee, can you go ahead? Sorry.
That's okay.
The 80% of students taking the English Regents will attain a level 4. So if I'm reading it correctly, so if we're at 50% of January 2020, we're really at 40% overall students are at the level 4 or 5. If it's only 80.
Just say that, so
So if it's
50% at
if the
4.
goal is at 80% of
Yes.
students, so 80% would equal 100. So really, the 50 looks like
Right.
40. Okay.
Doesn't look like we're reaching the ultimate goal, but in comparison to 39 to 80, that is significant.
It is not 40%, it's not 50% of the goal.
It's
50% of the students who
Okay.
took the test
Okay,
in
that's what I
January scored a 4 or 5.
Okay, sorry.
No, I have a couple, or one question, I guess. So our strategic coherence plan was until 2024, right? This was the final year for it. So what do, so 95%, so we're obviously well below where we expect it to be, regardless of why, because there's obviously lots of factors. what do we do going forward? Do we say, okay, we need another round of 3 years of this to try to reach this goal? Or do we lessen the goal? Like what do we do now that we're not meeting what our goals are, right? So how is this reevaluated?
So that's part of our new strategic coherence plan development, looking really at the goal. The 95% reading on grade level by the end of 3rd grade comes out of that science of reading research that says that that's a possible and attainable goal for students who receive instruction. It didn't certainly account for pandemic being in the middle of our strategic coherence plan and all of the ripple impacts of that. However, we do need to start from where we are and looking at planning going into our next strategic coherence plan and the work that the District Coherence Council is doing. We are looking at what is an appropriate goal and going back to, again, dissecting where it's working. And I think we've shared with you in the past and in your data slides, you see that different grade levels have different rates of growth, which tells us that these approaches are taking hold and having a positive impact on student learning. And so we need to be more diagnostic about where there are those gaps, though that should inform the goals that we put in place for the next plan.
Is our next plan 3 years as well?
It's 5. So this was 5, that our next one is slated to be 5, unless Mr. Covino and the coherence committee come up with a different idea. But right now, we're working on a 5-year plan. Good.
I think you're also going to see a shift. These goals were really developed in silos. When we go further into our presentation, you'll see that there's more of a focus on interdisciplinary and writing across the content areas, literacy across the content areas. So the skills in English can be delivered in any content. And I think we're going to see more opportunities where English and social studies are going to be working together. Abby and I just attended a workshop in city, or OCs, talking about science and literacy together. How are we building those literacy skills through all the content areas, not just in English? So we're not letting go of that goal of all students being proficient in literacy skills. We're going to start to see them being embedded in all areas. This is just a reminder of the action steps that are in our current strategic coherence plan. So reflecting on our action steps, we currently have 176 staff members who've gone through Letters Volume 1 training. Here's a picture of 10 of our teachers that are in progress on completing Volume 1. We have 27 who have completed Volume 2 and 12 are in progress. We have also expanded beyond pre-K and 3 teachers taking letters. We are now 4 through 12, and we have ENL teachers, speech therapists, CT teachers, and some social studies teachers who have also gone through the training.
And some school psychologists.
And some school psychologists, and principals, and directors. The next slide is really taking our training with the number of teachers we have already gone through letters, and these 9 sets of sessions, study group sessions, the goal of them was to really build upon and apply the learning from letters to our daily classroom instruction. The participation in the study groups has been impressive. We average about 35 teachers per session. The picture here illustrates a teacher who was implementing strategy, a literacy focus, using vertical surfaces that she was also learning about in another study group, building thinking classrooms. I think that's the exciting piece, and we have so many teachers participating in study groups, and they're combining their strategies into their Tier 1 instruction to meet our students' needs. Here are 2 examples of vertical collaboration that has occurred among our teachers in the district. In previous presentations, you've heard Abby and I talk about K-12 continuum and really looking at our district as a whole. And here's a perfect example of our GRB students who are in the children's literature class working with the students at Lanigan Elementary. Below that is an example of common writing anchor charts that spanning grades 5 through 12 in multiple content areas, and they were first developed during an initial coaching cycle, but the value of those quickly became recognized and common across the district. So we can go back 1 second. So the CRE model is for science, and we've also been adapting ones for social studies and English too. They're working together on those writing skills for students to alleviate some of that cognitive overload they're seeing, consistent anchor charts and strategies for their writing. This resource I'm really excited about, the Writing Revolution study group. Again, we have about 40 teachers in the study group, and we're starting to see that ripple effect of K-12 cross-curricular writing strategies offered in this study group. This resource will have an impactful tool for our district as we develop common approaches to writing instruction that will alleviate, again, that cognitive overload for our students, and they'll see similar structures and systems. Gina Salerno, Jerry, and I, January 10th, were able to participate in the statewide hybrid literacy conference at City BOCES with the release of the literacy briefs. The purpose of that was to really strengthen the knowledge of evidence-based literacy practices pre-K-12, and reflecting on the practices and systems we have here at Fulton, we're on a great trajectory to develop key strategies and systems for continuing to lead our literacy improvement. So our next steps, we're going to continue focusing on our students who have some barriers to learning. We're going to expand the collaboration with the Regional Bilingual Education Resource Network. We're going to continue focusing in on the Writing Revolution and rolling out the literacy briefs in schools, as well as continuing to refine our intervention and repertories to meet our kids' needs. I'll turn it over to Abby, who will discuss the
Thank you. Good evening. The next several slides focus on our progress in the area of instruction. We have met our established goals for instruction in 2 out of our 3 surveyed areas. An area of growth is to better understand students' perception of collaboration in the classroom and how partner and group work are facilitated. These are the action steps outlined in our current strategic coherence plan in the area of instruction for your review. They focus on professional development. So professional development and coaching around our instructional priorities are an area of celebration. This slide shows Mailbox PDs as an example of one of our coaches' ways of supporting and implementing instructional priorities. The pictures on these slides are 3 examples: backwards design for lesson planning, differentiating and scaffolding, and student engagement. Across the district, teaching strategies being learned in study groups are visible in classrooms and having a direct impact on Tier 1 teaching and student learning. This is something Renee just referred to. Teachers are sharing that they are combining multiple strategies learned in different study groups to better meet the needs of their students. Engineering practices, vertical surface collaborations, inside-out circles for reading, and math manipulative activities are a few examples we are seeing students actively engaging in the classrooms around our district.
I'm going to highlight just for a moment, click on this link here, and take you to our current year's study group site. This is an internal site for our instructional staff, and it showcases all of the study group opportunities that are being offered this year. And I won't read them all to you, but these are frequently teacher-initiated ideas that we bring together through a process of study group proposal and approval. And then really, as Renee mentioned and Abby also referred to, we have significant numbers of our staff participating in these various study groups. And
this link is here for you to peruse at your leisure, just to see some of the great instructional learning opportunities that are available and how engaged our instructional staff is in their own professional learning and helping one another with their professional learning. And you can see that these are strategic coherence plan study groups, and they align with our focus areas. So you have leadership, instruction, literacy, social and emotional development as topic areas for those.
So just those pictures right there, some of those were from the total participation study group, the science kit study group, the building thinking classrooms. Those are the examples that are illustrated up there in those pictures. It's hard to see in that last picture that the student is using a window as one of the vertical surfaces to do collaborative math problem solving here at the junior high. And I was just, prior to this meeting, I was watching principal's daughter, Liz was leaving, and she was just completely charged up from the study group that she had just participated in. So the participation in these study groups was all the way from the leadership through the entire district. So it's exciting.
And the pictures you're seeing, one of the best parts about this celebration for me is the pictures that you're seeing on the screen are those practices that were learned in study groups in actual classrooms with our students, trying them out, and then the teachers coming back, debriefing what went well, what didn't work, why didn't it work, how do I do this differently the next time. And it's really a testament to that collaboration and professional learning.
Interdisciplinary collaborations are happening in our schools. Listed here are a few examples on this slide. Last month, a collaboration between the GRB technology and science teachers and the 4th grade elementary teams built models of neighborhoods and problem solved using circuits to light them up. This project directly supported science learning in 4th grade while making connections to the real world and the high school programs. It was those pink and orange houses and the different streetlights for the circuits directly correlate with the 4th grade New York State science investigation. So it was a way for the tech teachers and some science teachers to go down there and share their expertise to our 4th grade staff, who said that it was just a phenomenal experience. At the junior high, multiple subject areas in 8th grade are incorporating lessons specific to the essential question, how did Nestle impact the Fulton community? Jim Farfalia, a local author and historian, is reading to classes from his book. Technology classes are producing silicone molds to pour chocolate. And social studies classes are designing historical candy bar wrappers that will tell the story of Nestle. These are just examples, a few examples of that transdisciplinary project that's happening. And as we referred to earlier in the agenda, on March 28th, many students will be learning across several subject areas and the significant impacts of eclipses of the past. They'll be learning the history, the culture, how it impacted writing, arts, math, science, and they'll also be preparing for April 8th as our totality happens. Another celebration is the renewed focus on math instruction. The Math Action Team is a group of district math leaders who are committed to building the capacity of our teachers around math instruction and ensuring that all students have the foundational skills and number sets to be successful in math. The Math Action Team has been in place for 1 year now. During this time, the team has advised on the rollout of assessing math concepts, the migration from Eureka Math to Eureka Math Squared, and focusing on how all teachers can get the most out of their teaching and the resources for Tier 1 math instruction. Using AMC, which is Assessing Math Concepts, foundational math skills are being assessed in grades kindergarten through 2nd grade. The results of these assessment interviews are providing important data for interventions and targeted activities during our TI times. 68 teachers have participated in the Assessing Math Concepts training so far. Additionally, 2 interventionists in the district are turnkey trainers who will be providing ongoing professional development to support AMC into the future. Internal capacity there. Transitioning to Eureka Math Square is underway. This current school year, grades 3, 6, and 8 are implementing Eureka Squared as their math curriculum resource. The remaining grade levels will preview Eureka Squared during their last module of this school year. And next fall, all levels, pre-K 8, will be fully transitioned to Eureka Squared math. So, some exciting stuff there. It is worth noting, I'll put in just a recognition of our science teachers. All 8 elementary and intermediate New York State science investigations have been implemented for grades 3 through 8. And these science investigations provide multiple hands-on opportunities for students to practice their scientific and engineering cross-cutting skills that they need. And this was a huge undertaking to try to complete 8 investigations, 4 for the elementary and 4 for the intermediate, for our testing cohorts of 5th grade and 8th grade as they were rolled out and presented to us from the state last year. And our teachers had to do 4 of them in 2 years rather than spreading them out over the 3 years that we have now. You know, we can go back to that schedule where it's a little lighter lift, but outstanding work by our science team to give that information to our teachers, and ultimately our students are really enjoying the activities. So, been great. Last but not least, awareness and participation of multiple graduation pathways continue to increase. This year we have 5 potential candidates with a seal of biliteracy. 5 more elective classes have been added to the list of options to meet the seal of civic engagement requirements for the seal of civic readiness. This week, the junior high is kicking off the first Fulton Junior High School capstone project. All 8th graders will enter the high school with 1 point towards their seal of civic readiness. Classroom visitations and interest surveys have begun for the IAAP and at the high school, and more than 50 students, this is huge, recently earned the ACT work keys. An information presentation to 8th graders at the junior high are underway for the early college high school program and P-TECH applications. A lot of good stuff happening there. Next, Kelly Gates will speak to us about the celebrations in early childhood and our instructional next steps. Thank you.
Good evening. It's a pleasure for me to speak about the little ones in our district in my role as the Director of Early Childhood from age 3 through grade 2. And we really have been explicit and purposeful in including them in all of our building activities, curriculum, our systems and structures throughout the district. And I really think that that's going to continue to show as they go from grade to grade. As you know, currently this school year we have 5 full-day UPK classrooms and 3 half-day classrooms. We started the school year with 2 half-day classrooms and had to add an additional afternoon classroom. We are currently, even in the month of February, having students that have been placed in our UPK classrooms, mostly in that afternoon UPK classroom because we still have room. This school year, we also have a special class integrated setting, universal pre-K classroom. So that gives us the opportunity to have our Fulton students who have special needs in our building prior to kindergarten. And that's huge for them. We have 150 total students in our UPK classrooms. Our registration for next school year is open, and we have almost 100 students already registered. The majority of those families have indicated a preference for full day. We also have applied for additional funding, and we're crossing our fingers for that expansion grant, which would give us the ability to have more classrooms and service more of our cohort for UPK. I'd like to be the first person to share with you about the Oswego County Early Childhood Alliance, which is newly being formed in our county. I sit on the leadership team for that. I am the only school district representative on that leadership team. It is a passion of mine to fight for the little ones, so I feel that as a county and as a district, that is where we need to be providing our support. A piece of the Oswego County Early Childhood Alliance is something called Help Me Grow, which we'll be hearing about. It'll be called Help Me Grow Oswego County. There is one in Onondaga County, but this one will be Oswego County Help Me Grow. It will give one central access for families starting at birth. They will be able to reach out to one person who can connect them to everything in Oswego County that they need. So I think it shows that we are addressing the need that we see from birth to give support to families and little ones early. Those pictures that you see, Senator John Mannion visited our Volney full-day UPK to read. The kids were so good. And that other picture is from our special class integrated setting UPK at lunchtime. And then these are areas for growth and next steps in the area of instruction. We are looking to really make explicit, clear connections among all the skills and competencies students need. So Mrs. Geithner has developed this, we call it the rainbow.
I'm just the keeper of it. So this document, which is hard to see on the screen, basically breaks down all of the different content and subject area practices, the things that students should be able to demonstrate through their learning. And our goal is to focus the work that we're doing instructionally and from a curriculum perspective on drawing the lines of connection across all of these content areas. And we'll see the ELA practices, the science and engineering practices, the social studies framework, the math, fine arts processes, and the SEL skills and practices. All of these have commonalities. And so, as all of the directors have talked about, those opportunities for transdisciplinary learning, multiple exposures to skills and competencies across content areas is really an area of focus for us, and it's a promising practice that we think will really serve our students well.
We're also looking to continue to support educator innovation. We talked about the study groups, so really supporting what teachers are interested in and how they can bring that to the classroom. Learning and growth to foster that increased student engagement. We know that when kids are engaged, they're going to learn. Also creating conditions that lead to collective efficacy, something that we talked about earlier, that really, what we do is important, and when we do that together, the amazing things that we can do. Also communicating with families about strategies that will support their students' goal setting and engagement in learning. Expanding opportunities for student voice and agency at school, and being really explicit about that collaboration during their learning. And now, the Director of Student Support Services,
So we will move into the social emotional well-being portion of the data review. You can see before you the goal outlined in the strategic coherence plan. We were aiming for 90% of our students through the student voice survey to express that they felt welcome and part of their school, or as though they belonged in our school. We are not yet at 90%, but we are moving closer. You can see the 2023 data, and for the question phrased as I feel welcome and part of my school, the 2022 data was 62.5%. So that's an increase of about 19% for positive responses to that question. And then I feel like I belong at my school. There was an increase from about 72% in about almost a 12% increase of students reporting that they feel as though they belong in our school. And then you may be familiar with these. These are the social emotional well-being action steps as outlined in the strategic plan. Some celebrations that we would like to highlight in this area include the therapeutic early childhood intervention classroom, which you were made aware of earlier in the year. We are really excited to see this system grow. This, Mrs. Geiger just clicked on.
I'm so excited about it, I can't continue.
This is a good thing to be excited about. One of the main focuses of this early intervention classroom really is the social emotional well-being of the students there and really meeting those needs so that they can access the academic learning portion of their day. This is the February newsletter put together by the team in there, led by the social emotional learning interventionist in that space. And it's really highlighting some of the things for families and for even some of the greater portion of the school, what's going on in that classroom and what are the things that they're focusing on and highlighting and growth that they're making. There's some student
This
pictures
says it
in
all,
there.
right? These two pictures right here. These are students who have been struggling significantly, and to see them thriving and smiling in their learning environment has really made a significant difference. It's not without bumps, but we're moving in the right direction.
In one of the strategies or resources that we're focusing on to support this is the use of our behavior intervention specialists and coaches. And this is not only as part of the therapeutic early childhood intervention classroom, but building wide. We have specialists and a coach. We have a team, a coach intervention specialist on the west side, so Brittany and Mannigan, and we also have a pair at Fairbury and Valley shared, and then we have an interventionist at the junior high school. And this is a new team of folks, and so we're learning in how they fit into the system, and they're really focusing on drilling down to what is the function of that behavior for some of our tier 3 students who really are exhibiting the most challenging behaviors. Some of these students have participated or are part of the early intervention childhood classroom, but it's also available, a tier 3 intervention available to all students. We currently, across the district, have 67 prevent, teach, reinforce plans, which are sort of the outcome of the evaluation of a particular child's behavior and trying to get to the function of that so that we can then provide supports and interventions on how to meet those needs, much of which are emotional and social needs. So we're going to continue working on developing and streamlining those systems and figuring out where this team of folks fits into our larger view of student support. It's been a great benefit to our students and for our staff in trying to meet the needs of students. We continue to have restorative practice specialists in each of our buildings. They are also very busy providing preventative and responsive interventions for students. They are facilitating circles daily, most of them 7 or 8 circles per day. They are performing mediations and interventions with students, helping them practice their de-escalation skills, all of which will help them spend more time in the classroom and also, again, access the learning while they're there. We are providing ongoing training for therapeutic crisis intervention, TCIS for short, and that really is, again, helping adults, helping children recognize what is triggering their emotions and then how to regulate and co-regulate through that so that they can understand what's driving their behavior and ultimately, in a school, help them access their learning and peer relationships and develop relationships, and all this relates directly back to our SEL benchmarks. Right now we have 7 TCIS trainers within our district. Myself and Todd Turbining and Jeff Hendrickson, they were recertified in December and I was certified for the first time in December. We also have multiple others throughout the district in different roles. This year alone, we have trained or will train about 33 new staff completely in the 5-day TCIS training. We have an upcoming 5-day training in March. We also, TCIS trained staff need to recertify twice a year. So we have a recertification study group coming up after school beginning on Thursday. And that will just review the content, the strategies, and some of the skills that are taught.
We're also going to train everybody in the TCIS overview on March 11th. So 3 hours of that on our professional development day.
Can you be up there? What's TCIS again?
Therapeutic crisis intervention.
Thank you.
Yeah, so everybody, our SROs, our aides, our principals, our directors, everyone will have access to 3 hours of TCIS. It's not the full TCIS, it's the de-escalation strategies and behavior management to help. So everybody has some skill in that area. Another celebration is we have a great problem where we're talking about, do we need to put a cap on the number of students who are participating in extended day so that we have enough staff and supplies to service them. We haven't had to do that, but we're getting a little nervous about being able to have enough for everybody.
How many approximate students do we have for that program?
Right now, so we have the cooking module, which is very, very popular, starts Monday. We have approximately 111 students signed up, right, which is almost double what is typical. Now, we don't know if all will participate when they come, but you know, we need to plan groceries in in menus and things like that for them. So it's a great sort of panic moment to have. But yeah. So, and they are also seeing, they're building in family engagement nights as part of each module. We're seeing increasing parental involvement. I think we had 40 family members attend the October family night and then 53-ish in December. So they're very pleased with the outcomes and the kids get really excited to share how they're spending their time with their families. Another celebration is the ongoing meetings for the School Culture Student Advisory. This is a group of 5th through 12th graders. We have representatives from every building, one each from 5th grade in each building, one each from 6th grade in each building, and then 4 junior high and 4 high school students across the grades. And this is really an extension of our universal team, our district culture teams, and they are currently in response to the data that we're talking about and some conversations that they're having at the table. They are now developing an action step and trying to find ways to collect information on how to increase students feeling welcome and belonging in their schools.
And how are students for that student culture advisory group, how are they chosen?
They were chosen as part of the leadership teams within their buildings. Most of them are participating in like student congress or whatever government they have within their buildings, and teacher nomination and principal input as well, and their own personal expression of wanting to be a part of that.
I have a quick question about the the classroom.
Okay.
Are we getting feedback from parents of the students that are in there, and what types of feedback are we receiving?
So we're having communication with the families. We are also, as a district, reaching out to the staff and the students in those, in that classroom, because we want to know what's working so that we can replicate. And we want to know that from a personal perspective as a participant in that classroom. What's different about this that's helping? What are we learning? The adults in there went in with a very solid and strategic and research-based plan. But sometimes, you just don't know, what day-to-day will bring. So we're trying to capitalize on their expertise and their experiences, and to definitely for parents. There's daily communication between the staff and the students in that classroom, and we are taking copious notes.
And the families, just anecdotally, have shared how nice it is to go through a day and when you get the call, not worry that it's something not so great, that it's a celebration. Or if it is an issue of concern, that there is a response plan already
formulated and that they're invited to provide input. So because of the size and intensity of the class and the fact that this is an intervention, it really helps to have that ongoing communication. And it's not, you saw the smiling faces. It's nice as a parent to see your child come home happy from school. Right?
Yes. And will there be plans for more?
So we're actually, we met, Kelly, Tammy, and Gina Salerno and I met over the February break to talk about, is there a way to replicate some of the strategies without all of the resources? So we're working through a few of those things, and Dr. Lisi's given us some paint and some things that we can do to try to replicate some of the effective methods that are in place.
I think another part that's not on here, but I would like to highlight in terms of something to share as a success with that classroom. They have really taken a lot of measures and put a lot of thought into how to work transitioning those students back into their grade level classrooms. And so there has been time spent where the student has gone back to their, let's say, second grade classroom and spent time there with supports. Peers from that classroom have come down and spent time with the student in the therapeutic classroom. The adults have done the same thing so that the classroom teachers receiving the student back into their classroom are learning some of those strategies and the language used and really trying to replicate some of that so that they can really increase the opportunity for that student to meet success when they come in. And they're always leaving that door open. They're leaving the light on for the students. If they need a home base, if they need to come back, they make that very clear to the family, to the students, and to the staff that that is always an option.
Have we seen our students that have gone back into the classroom stay there thus far, or?
We are just meeting that mark. This 8-week mark, 6-week mark would have been right around break, and we didn't want to do that. So the first reintegration will happen next week.
Okay.
And everybody's sort of on a different schedule, but more to come on that.
Okay.
So as Jerry mentioned, so with all the celebrations we have, we do have some areas that we want to keep focusing on and working on. Attendance improvement is one of our priorities. Again, as you've heard the other directors mention, we're talking about interdisciplinary strategies. We're not just talking about content, but we're talking about skills that work across all of our areas. And I think if we are meeting the social emotional needs, if we are engaging them as learners, we will see, if we're meeting their emotional and mental health needs, we will continue to see an increase in our attendance, but we will keep working on that.
One of the things you'll see tomorrow in family communication is a very lengthy section sharing our data on chronic absenteeism and outlining strategies that we're trying at school, but also asking for help and making suggestions for things that families and community members can also do to help reduce chronic absenteeism. Because right now, 38.5% of our students have missed 10% or more of the school year.
Are we finding that more of our younger students are missing or more of our older students? Or is it kind of a balance?
So typically it's bookends. Typically
Okay.
it's the youngest and the eldest.
Okay.
And that's the pattern that we've seen over the years. We actually, as dire as that data looks, it's actually a slight improvement over last year. So we're hoping that some of the strategies at work will help keep that number or percentage going down. But it is a serious concern, and obviously, when you look at our academic results, you can make some correlations to our attendance.
We also have multiple other members of our SST who are implementing attendance plans with students, check in, check out, many different individualized and group level type interventions to help support that too. And that really is because students are missing school for a multitude of reasons, and it really is individualized for the most part. So we try to group those interventions where we can and pair students together. And again, the collective advocacy part is working well with these guys. So we're going to keep addressing that. Again, as Jerry mentioned, we're working to figure out what's working for their early intervention childhood classroom and how can we replicate that to other rooms and really across the district into every classroom. And these really are strategies that can benefit all learners. We're going to continue with the TCIS professional development beginning this week and extending through the end of the year. There will also be some summer groups coming through. Our school culture student advisory is really energized right now. It's going to capitalize that and really tap into their experience. Our goal is for them to then go back to their leadership teams within their building, share information, collect information, do some problem solving, and then, we want that flow of information and that strategizing and problem solving to be two-way communication between our monthly meetings and what's going on in their buildings. We are really focusing on them not just sharing their own perspective of things, but getting, sort of the input of their constituents, so to speak. Again, those cross-curricular opportunities, exploring strategies and training to embed SEL, interdisciplinary. We're talking about skills for life and skills for learning, so it's not necessarily, you can't learn and shouldn't learn social emotional skills in silos. We are hoping to start enhancing these skills in our science lessons and our math lessons through cooperative learning and problem solving and getting along with others and regulating emotions and being able to clearly express yourself and disagree with somebody respectfully. So those are things, and Jerry will talk more about Portrait of a Graduate in a few minutes. That's one of the ways that we're really focusing on that. We are also exploring, again, professional development for ourselves and for the staff on how to enhance those common spaces within each building, within each classroom, really promoting students in self-initiated emotional regulation. And that will come with practice. And then graduation pathways and career exploration at an early age. We're having some conversations with our student support team and our counselors, and our 6th grade counselor in particular, on how to have those conversations that are psychology and career oriented, but really adult life oriented. Where do you want to be, and what is your preferred, and where are your skills, and what pathway can we help you find? Having those conversations at a much, much earlier age. We use Zello program for a lot of that. Right now, 6 through 12, but we're having conversations about bringing that to some of the younger grades and how young do we go, and what does that look like developmentally for each grade.
So where does this take us all? You receive a lot of data, a lot of information, a lot of analysis and breakdown of what we've been talking about. This leads right into the early stages of the development of our next strategic coherence plan, where our focus will be more, more like a Venn diagram as opposed to separate sections dedicated to a specific area, looking at our culture, our systems and structures, and learning wellness and life pathways to drive all of our action steps. We use data every day, and we make adjustments to what we do based on that data every day within individual teacher classrooms, within PLC teams, within departments, whole schools in those universal data team meetings, and certainly as a district. On February 9th, we spent an afternoon as an entire district evaluating our mid-year data in small group professional learning communities so that they could really develop action steps, not for next year, but for what do we do on Monday when the students are back in front of us. So that's the real action-oriented part of those multi-tiered systems of support teams. And we're developing that, continuing to develop that expertise, continuing to refine that practice. We haven't mastered it yet, but we will. We're going to keep going. And looking ahead to the future, Tammy just referenced Portrait of a Graduate. This is our end goal. We want to produce graduates from the Fulton City School District who clearly demonstrate all of these traits, being critical thinkers, innovative problem solvers, literate across all content areas. They'll have cultural competence, social emotional competence, be effective communicators, and be global citizens. So they are prepared for whatever they decide to do once they leave G. Ray Bobbin High School and walk across the stage. So that's where we're headed.
We appreciate the support that you've given us and the latitude that we have to work on these issues and continue to strive for improvements. We know we are not there, but we think we have a pretty good roadmap so far.
Questions? So I just want to express my appreciation and gratitude to the team that's here this evening, but to all of our teachers and everybody. This is affecting all components in our district. This is just scratching the surface tonight of what you're hearing that's going on. You could dig into almost any one of these pages and what's on one of those pages and spend hours learning and hearing about what's going on. And the investment that's going on with our teachers and our administrators across the district is, I would say, second to none. You know, when you look at what we're doing here in the literacy briefs, when you go into those literacy briefs, Fulton has been doing the science of reading for a number of years. And that puts us at the forefront. The whole county actually was working on the science of reading. Our MTSS frameworks, our lens of learning, all of these different components together. It all has to be seen together in a very coherent way. It's not individualized components. It's everything fitting together. And I think that's the greatest challenge, is how are we bringing that together to meet the needs of every child every day. And that's the challenge, because we have a wide range of kids in our district, from well before pre-K all the way through 12th grade and beyond. So, and you saw those pathways at the end. So there's so many opportunities here in Fulton. We just need to stay the path. And as we enter the budget season, as it's the next kind of update around our financials, is that as we're putting together this next budget, how do we ensure that we have and we're able to maintain and support these key priorities and these key pieces that are going on in our district to ensure that our kids that are entering now in pre-K next year, that 13 years from now, they're going to walk out here ready and raring to go to be leaders in the world. That's what we've got to be constantly looking at. So that'll be the challenge that's before this group over the next couple of months, and also as we evolve and get near unveiling the next our next rendition of the strategic priorities plan as well. So, any other questions or discussion? Great. There's a lot of information here tonight, so thank you. A lot of links and things. If you do have questions, please reach out to the team. There's a lot of information here.
Thank you, ladies, so much.
Great job, everyone. Thank you. Next is our operations and finance report for January. Dr. Lacey.
Thank you. So for January, our cash flow report, just go through this very quickly with you. Our just comparative our revenues from 22-23 to 23-24. Our actual revenues in 22-23 in January were a little over $41 million, representing 52% of the budget, and our current actual revenues are $44.5 million, representing 53%. Our expenditures in 22-23 in January were a little over $37 million, representing 47%, and our actual now is a little over $39 million, representing again 47%. So we're pretty much in line with where we expected. Again, we always provide you with a graph to give you a visual of where we are at this point. Again, last time I mentioned a little tick down, and now we're balancing out with a slight tick up there. That mostly due to our various grants and what we received income from those. So that particular dip in next lineup would have been our stimulus grants that we received during that period. So we're basically in line with what we expected. In terms of a budget update, I wanted to provide you with the calculation for the tax cap for 24 and 25. We use the Questar 3 BOCES calculation form. Just kind of go through this with you really briefly, give you a sense of how that's calculated, and share that information with you. We have the ability to fill in certain lines in here, so we can share that with you. Most of this is predicated on last year's levy, which is a slight growth factor that the comptroller gives us that changes that just slightly. So last year is calculated at the end there. You can see where it says adjusted 23-24 current year, not last year, sorry, current year 23. This year 23-24 tax levy is calculated at $22,091,743.06. And then when we use the allowable growth factor, I'm just going to scroll down here slightly, of 1.02, again, that's given to us by the Department of Labor. And our projected pilots, our payments in lieu of taxes for 24-25 at $191,900. And our available carryover, that's the difference between the current year's levy and limit There's certain adjustments that have to be deducted from that. The carryover is $338,190. And our tax levy limit for 24-25 with exemptions, I'm going to skip down to the second green line there, is our maximum allowable tax levy, which is $23,273,735.20, which actually represents a 5.57% tax cap, which is what's allowable. The dollar amount for that is $1,228,164.20. Now that's the limit, that's the cap at which we could suggest. Last year, as you know, the levy was 0. So.
Do we have the breakdown yet on what that might look like for?
Right. We don't have that yet until we get the, we don't have all the information yet from the comptroller to do that.
Okay.
So once we get that,
And then you'll break that down for us.
we will.
Okay.
It's an estimate. I want to make sure it's clear that.
Right,
Exactly.
right, an
estimate.
In the budget workshop on Tuesday evening at 5:30, I think we'll dig in. Obviously, we'll get us to where we're at this point, but also a discussion really about what are the parameters that the board's going to want to look at as far as right now. We know that our outside limit without a supermajority is 5.57%. We could go anywhere between 0 and 5.5% or 5.57%. We really need to start having some discussions about those figures as we then look at how do we look at the gap that we have between our projected revenues and expenditures, and how do we have to go about addressing that issue. Okay. Anything to add to that, Dr. Lacey?
At this point, that's fair.
Any questions about the financial report this evening?
Mr. Lacey?
Sure.
For that meeting next Tuesday, I'm assuming you'll be there for that.
Of course.
Can you have it broken down, say by the whole number of percentages, just what that would look like for revenue bringing in? So like you calculated out, I think the 5.57, you said that's 1.2.
Yes.
So like, could you have it broken down for each of the percentages so we could look at it at that level as well?
You might have to clarify a little bit for me.
So if we did 1%, how much would that be bringing in?
Oh, I see. Sure. Yes.
Just so we could look
Sure.
at it at the different
Absolutely.
levels.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Sure.
Okay, great question, Mr. Connors. Any other questions? All righty. And the final item on the superintendent's report is the 2024-25 instructional calendar draft, in draft form. What you're looking at is a 186-day calendar is what we have here in Fulton. It's 185 plus an orientation day. After feedback from the teachers bargaining unit, which is part of their contract, they came up with and supported this one moving forward, which is a staff orientation day on August 28th. So we would have a day on August 28th, which I believe is a Wednesday. I'm not incorrect, I believe that's what that is. So we would start before Labor Day that day, and then our staff would come in on Superintendent's Conference Day on September 2nd, with kids starting on the 4th of September. What highlights this and what drove this is there are 3 days at Thanksgiving. The Wednesday holiday is a holiday recess. And then if you go to the December break will now be a full 2 weeks. It'll start on the 23rd of December, and it will run through January 3rd with the return of students and staff on the 6th of January. So that's really what drove there, and you'll see the other breaks are built in as well. As you go through, you'll see the February break is the week of the 17th, April break is the week of the 14th, I believe Easter Sunday is the 20th, so that falls with Good Friday at the end of that April break week. May 26th, then we have Juneteenth. Also unique in this calendar, I believe, you'll see January 29th. January 29th is the first time that the district has to allocate the day for Lunar New Year. This year it's on a Saturday, so it was not affected because it's on the actual day. However, in next year's calendar, which drove some of the discussion around the calendars, is that's an additional day that we've never had before. And then I believe 2 years ago or 3 years ago, we started Juneteenth, adding that in June as well. So so calendars look a little bit different. then they have passed. All of those components have been taken into consideration, and based on the feedback, we'll be moving this calendar forward for approval from the Board of Education.
And we have to take into consideration future years, that lunar year.
It moves.
It goes into February, it comes into January.
Yeah, it moves each year. It's always in a different spot. I think the other piece that we need to be cognizant of, and just do kind of an info future commercial, would be that, you know, there's a lot of consideration for other holidays being considered at the state level. And some of those may be choices for districts. And some districts do have other holidays where they have a different configuration or different demographics that they're serving. But there's a lot of discussion out there that there's going to be more holidays that we may be contending with in the future.
Now, do we have to follow those?
If it's a state holiday, yes, we do. If it's out there for the state. For example, the new lunar year is an example of that day where it's required. Doesn't matter where you are in the state of New York. So that may affect things in the future. We had to it's pretty creative on this one, but if you notice at the end of June, we're much later. We're actually till June 27th. So the state made a decision based on feedback from districts across the state that to actually move that rating day out further at the end of June, because in the past that day's hit us around the 23rd or 24th, and I think so it's a little bit longer in June, allows us that flexibility in the calendar that we were able to work with this year.
2-week Christmas break.
It happens every 7 years or so.
Yes. Every month stream.
So, yes, and it appears to be very consistent with the other districts in the county that I've seen so far. Any other discussion? Questions? Okay, so that's the conclusion of the superintendent's report. I know that it was long, but a lot of information, a lot of important data. That report actually is just, as I said, brings a lot of different reports since the beginning of the year together as well. I think it's a great reference point as we move forward in the budget process as well. It's a great document for us. And with that, thank you for your attention this evening and your support. Thank you.
All right, we're going to move forward with action 4.01, accept financials. Can somebody move that, please?
Move it.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 6-0-0.
Just have a question.
Sure.
Dr. Lisi. The last meeting we talked about adding some additional information on the warrants. Are we any further ahead on those?
Not yet. Still in the process.
Thank you.
Action 4.02, accept donation for the Fulton Junior High School food pantry.
Move it.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 6-0-0. Thank you very much to that anonymous donation. That was very thoughtful. Thank you. For action 5.01, approve committee on special education.
Move it.
Second.
Is that Nick or Tim? Tim. Two Tims. Tim. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 6-0-0. Action 5.02, approve nomination to the City of OC's Board of Education.
Move it.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 6-0-0. Action 5.03, approve the WAN renewal.
Move it.
Second.
Yes, what the plan is.
Dr. Lacey?
Sure, it's our wireless network. It's what gives us our connection, and BOCES provides that, so it's something we approve every year.
Okay, so Mr. Crandall was our first. Is there someone second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 6-0-0. For our personnel, I would like to ask if we could batch those 6.01 to 6.005.
Move it.
Second. There we go. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 6-0-0. We're going to be moving on to our board forum. Let's start with Mr. Crandall.
Just want to thank everyone for the presentations. Very informative. I hope Dr. Lisi is ready for next Tuesday for budget.
I'll do my best.
Okay. Weekend's coming, you can put in overtime. I want to thank Mr. Briggs for their performance. And that's it.
All right. Mrs. Hutchinson? Ditto. Mrs. Papalardo?
Yes, it was very nice to watch the kids. I look forward to that every year. And then I also wanted to say that I saw the Bridges to Success, is that still what we're calling it, information come out, and a lot of people excited about that, giving feedback, asking when we're signing our kids up, so pretty good.
That's great. All right. Mr. Connors?
Again, all the presentations, especially the students tonight, were great. I mean, Lang made it through the whole performance without going, so I know it's going to be a good one this year. It's kind of like the Groundhog Day kind of thing. He decides how it's going to go. And I thought one of the exciting things for tonight was just hearing, one of our worries is how to accommodate more people. That shows that there's engagement from our students in the community, and that's always a good sign that we're getting not only communication out there, but people are being receptive to that communication as well.
Mr. DeJour?
Thank you to the Quirks players for their couple of scenes that they performed for us with Footloose. Just would have to ask, when somebody's doing a presentation, is there any way we can get word to them when they give us those acronyms for that?
It's something we're always striving to remember.
Okay, great. The book Weed Log I mentioned a few weeks ago, I understand that's been gone back and has been revised to show where those books, why they were removed, and where they'll be going, and whether or not they'll be replaced. So I thank you for that. And then the civic readiness, is that test that the kids are taking for to go to work? Is that?
No, that's Work Keys is
Work
the ACT Work Keys program. That's the career and work readiness assessment. But the Seal of Civic Readiness is a graduation pathway, so it can be used as a part of your 4+1 graduation pathway, or it is an endorsement seal on your diploma indicating that you've met the criteria for the Seal of Civic Readiness.
Okay. Is there a way I can look at what that consists of?
So on the Lens of Learning, you can find some links to the Seal of Civic Readiness in the high school social studies department section, and that really is evidence that our students have both civic knowledge and civic engagement. So it's a series of either coursework, Regents exams, projects like the capstone project that the junior high is doing here, but it's also community-based work and volunteer experience. So they earn points that's tracked through their social studies teachers and their school counselors. Last year, was the first year we implemented, we had 150 students in the Seal of Civic Readiness in our first year. So we're looking forward to having that continue to grow.
And on the workforce.
The Work Keys?
Work Keys. That's an exam, is that correct?
That is.
So that would not be on in the Lens of Learning or anything on our website?
You can actually learn about the Work Keys assessment through ACT,
okay.
the American College Testing Program site, and you can read all about what that Work Keys is. You saw in one of our most recent presentations that we're adding a Work Keys preparation course for the high school.
I guess my real interest is, can I see what that test is all about?
Absolutely.
Or would I end up having to take it?
You will probably be directed to some sample questions on the ACT website. I know you will, because I've been there. But it measures different areas that demonstrate a person's readiness for a specific employment profile. So it's about communication, it's about technical reading and writing. It really aligns, and you'll see each of the different levels of the work keys assessment from platinum to bronze equate with a percentage of career opportunities that you would be deemed ready to walk into. So if you're a platinum level, it's like 99% of the aligned employment opportunities with work keys you would be eligible for and have demonstrated readiness for.
So if retirement isn't working out for me, I should be looking at that.
And we do offer it to members of our community. We're a work keys site. We do as a district cover the cost of our students taking it, but if adult members of the community want to take that assessment, they can pay the fee, which is not huge, it's manageable for many people. They can do that right at our career exploration center.
Okay, thank you.
That's great.
That's all I have.
That's great. Well, I want to thank you and your team for bringing all that information into us tonight. It is great to see, even though we may not be where we planned on being, it is nice to see that we're moving in the right direction, and I really appreciate everything that they've brought to our attention this evening. I also, just going back to the Quirks players, very excited to see the entire show, but I do want to do a shout out because every year, some of the alumni miss that Mr. Briggs does do an alumni night. The alumni night is on the Friday night of the show. I did confirm with him this evening about that. So if there are any past Quirk players out there and you want to come in and support those kids that are they did a fantastic job tonight, Friday night is the alumni night for that. I am excited to see that. I am excited for Music in Our Schools month. It has always been one of my favorite months. Could you possibly give us a calendar link in our updates
It's
like
at
you
the
normally
end.
do?
Every single one is there.
And make sure that we don't miss any
Yep.
of those dates because
they're all there.
it's so great to get out.
And they start, I think, next week.
Yes,
I mean,
they
it
do.
is- it
They
is-
do.
They're rolling.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep.
So that's wonderful.
Mhm.
With that, we are going to move on. We do not have,
One more thing.
oh, you have one more thing.
Yeah, we all got an email on volunteering to work at Quirk Players.
Yes.
I don't know if that goes out to the public or not, or if I should have asked Mr. Briggs, or if he's even interested in others. Then
There is
we'll
a
work
Friends
with
of
him.
Quirks players that I know that went out to, but I'm not sure if there's anybody.
But they're always looking for help, so we'll put that out there.
There is nobody here I guess I should ask. Anybody want to speak for the second public forum? Okay. We will then move on. There is no executive session this evening. So we don't have to worry about that. So we're going to go into adjournment. 8.01.
Move it.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 6-0-0. Thank you for joining us this evening. Everyone have a wonderful evening.
Just a heads up, I won't be at this meeting.